Welcome to Tackle Talk Live. That's right. You have tuned in to a internet show that is going to help make you a better angler. Today's show, we've got two of the best from Sam Rayburn that are going to be on the show today and going to tell us exactly what they did, how they did it. One of them was a second place, the runner-up for this event, Kevin.
Yes, Josh Douglas finished second in the event. A lot of people thought he was going to win it. He was right there at the end, right at a pound, lost by right at a pound. But Josh had a great event. Really focused on catching his fish offshore, and he had a different approach to the brush pile fishing over there. We're gonna dive into how he broke that down, and then also we have Lee Livesay comes on. He got a check. He finished in the third. He was top 40. Got a good check over there at Sam Rayburn. The whole tournament he was shallow. Yeah. So we're going to get what made him stay shallow. Lee is a very good deep water guy,
right?
So it's really surprising to me that he stayed shallow the entire tournament. He said he did want to go deep at some point, never did. And I also know he caught 2 9s in practice.
Right.
So also Lee will be giving us a fishing report and talk a little bit about Lake Fort with the Sealy Outdoors event going on over there this coming weekend. So we'll hear from him on that and get everybody prepared for that event.
Yeah, looking forward to having both those guys on today. We appreciate all of you that are tuning us in. Continue to spread the word about Tackle Talk Live. We greatly appreciate it. And, looking at, especially at Sam Rayburn, opposite ends of the spectrum. So that's what I'm excited about, get to hear. Especially, it's kind of like when Cody Huff won the Toledo Bend tournament earlier in the winter, or I guess it was February.
Yeah.
When he won the college series, and he turned right around the next week and won was it the Open or FLW?
The Toyota.
Yeah, the Toyota series. And a guy from up north that's not from this region, totally different approach and was very successful. So, and I guess
Josh is a very good electronics guy. He's a Lowrance guy that has, he's as good as they come with his electronics. So, like I said, it's going to be really interesting to see how he broke down practice, determining what he wanted to fish and which piles he wanted to fish. I know he was fishing some shallower piles too, 8 to 12 foot.
Right.
So, like I said, we're going to dive into all that with Josh and just kind of get how they approached this last week's tournament.
And real quick, I want to thank our 3 sponsors, the Boat Shop, 3J's 4-Way, and our newest sponsor, Pride Rods. And real quick, Kevin's going to tell you about the Boat Shop.
The Boat Shop. Mr. Raymond Kidd and his staff take great pride in keeping your boat and motor performing at its best. A certified Yamaha dealer and full support Garmin dealer, offering the best in electronics and the new Garmin trolling motor. So stop by 2410 Sanford Avenue in Shreveport and let the Boat Shop take care of all your boating needs. Give them a call at 318-402-0399 or go to shreveportboatshop.com.
And while Kevin's getting Josh on the phone with us, real quick, I'm going to tell you about 3J's 4-Way and Cypress Knee Outdoors. John Abraham, he is the owner down there, and he is inviting you to come down and check out Cypress Knee Outdoors, which is inside 3J's 4-Way. Guys, if you're looking for guns, ammo, hunting season's here. Teal season is here. Heard a little shooting going on in Texoma. It lasted for about 30 minutes and it was over. So those teal came in, and I'm sure that's the way teal season is. But if you're looking to get ready for teal season, I think there's another week or 2 left. But duck season will be right around the corner. Deer season's right around the corner. And so anything you need for the outdoors, fishing supplies, a lot of guys are still fishing all the way into the fall now. They've got whatever you need. Top name brands from Santone, V&M, Strike King, Gary Yamamoto, they got it all. So make sure you check it out. John Abraham. Also, they got a great deli there with some outstanding food. If you're looking for a great lunch location, 3J's 4-Way is a hard place to beat. I mean, it's just a great place to go. So for all your outdoor needs and your deli lunchtime needs, go to Cypress Knee Outdoors, 3J's 4-Way, Cypress, Louisiana. It's located 1 mile east of I-49, exit 127. Or you can call them at 318-238-HUNT.
All right, and last but not least, Pride Rods, American-made and custom-built here in Montgomery, excuse me, right there in Montgomery, Texas. The finest rods ever made by Mr. Billy Kistler, constructed with the finest North Fork composite blank by Gary Loomis. They carry all your freshwater and saltwater applications for spinning and casting rods. Pride rods, they definitely pass the eye test, but they surpass the test of performance even more. Stop by your local tackle store and pick one up, or simply ask about Pride Rods. You can also get them online at priderods.com or call 832-418-6040 or 936-697-4149.
And on the hotline, we've got Josh Douglas. Josh, I'm always impressed with guys that come from up north and come down to our neck of the woods and teach us new things. You had a runner-up finish here at Sam Rayburn. Congratulations. Great job. And but Kevin, again, these northern guys sometimes will surprise us when they come down and teach us and show us new ways to catch fish that we don't always think about.
Yeah, Josh, again, congrats, man. I know you're an electronics guru, and I know you spent a lot of time, most likely in practice, breaking down the lake with your Lowrances. Kind of walk us through your practice. And I know I watched a lot of live, and I know you said that you spent a lot of time graphing and looking at different structures, but kind of break down practice for us and how you came up with what you was going to be fishing, what piles, what depth, and that kind of stuff.
Oh yeah, guys! First, thanks for having me on, man. That's pretty awesome to be on. So appreciate you guys want me on to hear how it went on. But my Lowrances were huge. Basically, I came down. This ain't my first time at Rayburn. I actually was it didn't help at all. But Bob Seeley, who I'm sure y'all know down there.
A little bit. We know Bob.
Used to do a fall big bass tournament, and they had a pro division. So it'd be like me and Todd Castledine and Keith Combs and Paul Lysonzell. And it was just like a little division. So I kind of was down there this time of year. Unfortunately, none of that stuff played. There wasn't a whole lot of grass in the areas that I was looking to do, and that's what I wanted to do. Especially coming off the FLW tournament we had there this spring, I got paid fishing grass in Harvey, rattle trapping in spring, different time of year. But from Minnesota, flipping grass is something we do. We've always heard the stories on Rayburn being from out of town of, local pros being able to flip big ones out of mats or flipping that edge and catch big ones in school. So it kind of all set up in that fashion where I did that for Saturday and Sunday, and I just couldn't catch crap. I hung around Harvey and Beach and Caney, and, areas that are notoriously pump fish out of grass. And it was just real kind of hodgepodgey. I just couldn't catch them good. I caught maybe, I had a few bites I missed, and then, gosh dang, if there wasn't just a ton of boats, I think with COVID, we're all dealing with that at every lake right now. It's just a lot of people fishing. It's a good thing, but it can be a bad thing too when you're trying to practice. So I think on that Sunday, I spent a lot of time the first day down whatever that other arm is, right by the dam, the big arm towards Buck Bay and back there, and just didn't really do that well. The last time I was here in the fall, there was a good bit of grass back there, but I just didn't find enough of it to like it. And that second day up by the bridge, I probably caught 11 pounds that day and worked my butt off sun up to sundown, punching on that grass line, and just never found anything that I thought was going to do me any good. So that Monday, the first day of practice, I launched there at Castle Boykins, and just I've been around long enough to know where it tends to go down on Rayburn. The 103 bridge area is a good area. There's big bass that hang around there. And I just started putting the pieces together. The water was dropping. There was a ton of boats fishing shallow. We had 200 boats in the tournament. We have co-anglers there practicing, high school tournaments going on. And I just knew that I am a pretty good grass fisherman, and I just didn't do that good doing it all day. So I started idling. I'll never forget it. I found a brush pile there that I fished in that tournament. Actually never caught nothing off it the entire tournament, but maybe a 2-pounder on day 2. But it was the first one I found. I think it was a cane pile, because you guys are tricky where you're putting your brush piles out there. Like, people are pretty pro on, it's not on the obvious stuff, but it has to be kind of close to the obvious stuff if you want a lot of fish around, so it drains and hard spots and stuff. So it was weird. It looked like it was in a bucket and had a skinny on the top. It came up big. But anyway, that was the first one I saw, and it was bushy. And I just didn't fish them. I just kind of idled around that whole canyons area and just looked for brush. And I found probably 25 piles in two hours. Clearly, I went back and deleted a bunch of those over time. Right. They were old piles. They were too deep for where I found the bass to be. But anyway, I'll never forget it, because that first brush pile I found was the cleanest, beautifulest one in that whole group that I found over 2.5 hours. And I watched 2 different boats in that 2 hours stop and fish that brush pile. So I was like, okay, it's no secret. I mean, it's right there by Castle Boyd. So
Right.
Yeah.
It's no secret. Well, anyway, I circled back on it, and I was going to run these now and see if they're any good. And my first cast, I caught a 7.5 pounder on a ribbon-tail one. And I went, And from there, it just kind of clicked. And I remember looking at the canyons, looking how low the water is getting, looking at all the boats, and they're throwing frogs and flipping. I'm like, these fish are just coming to me. You know, I know they want to be in these areas. I know Jackson Hill, the Deer Stand, Harvey, all these are just notoriously good areas for bass to be. And I just started idling, and I never made another cast on a brush pile again. I ended up finding 74 in the next day and a half.
So you caught one fish off of one brush pile.
Yep.
And you knew then this is what I'm going to do. So you just went and started marking piles. Are you marking every pile? Are you marking pile you're marking fish on? Are you looking for something certain that you're marking these piles for?
No, I actually I did fish. I should take that back. I had fish right that morning. I had also had some other brush piles that I caught fish off of. I caught all my meat in the FLW tournament, my bigger fish in Harvey in grass. Yeah. But I had brush piles out my 25 at the time. You know, at the time, I think the water was maybe a little bit high still.
Right.
But you know, now some of those piles were in like 20, 21, 22, and I could only catch little ones out of them. And, you know, that started giving me some confidence, man. At least I'll catch enough spots and 14, 15 inches to keep me busy during the day, like catching fish. Because a guy, you know, at least me, I like to always be still getting somewhat bit. But no, that one was big. And then in the course of the practice, you know, you have a little network of other anglers that I've gotten to know really well.
Right.
You know, local guys. Dakota Hebert is one of my favorites, dude. He's a really good upcoming angler.
Absolutely.
And you just kind of get the vibe that you're not necessarily in the wrong doing what you're doing.
Right.
But what I did know was if I stopped and fished all those brush piles, that I wasn't always going to get bit on one that could potentially be good, and two, I was going to find a lot less brush piles if I stopped and fished them all.
Josh, you know,
not only that, somebody can see your boat sitting there and know, okay, you must be sitting on a brush pile the way he's fishing. So I just idled them. And then over the course of two and a half days of idling, you start seeing ones that have bigger dots on them or on better spots. And then I remember that last day of practice, I kind of idled around and I started to delete some that were a little scraggly, a little not so good. But any waypoint I had coming here, which were just from my past experience terms, you know, I fished that high water tournament at FLW 2 years ago, and that was I was like chasing my tail. You know, that was water in the trees for 8 feet high. There's so many. I was lost out there, and all my waypoints were in the pine trees, which was dry now. So I didn't really have any other options. So I just kind of I targeted that particular brush pile was in 12 feet. So that kind of gave me a shallower range right away where I caught that 7 pounder, and so I idled them, and then I just started seeing bigger bass hanging on the brush and started getting a lot of confidence that, man, and here's another thing I want to tell you guys. I live on Lake Mille Lacs in northern Minnesota. If you don't know Mille Lacs, it's the Sam Rayburn of smallmouth fishing. It's big offshore, big smallmouth bass. I mean, heck, there's a very defined reason why Keith Combs came to Mille Lacs in the fall and won that AOY, because they're big fish that you can power fish for. But a lot of it is boulder hopping. And if you have enough, or like little sections of boulders, if you have enough rocks or power, and if you have enough of them, and you run them all day and you don't get sidetracked, you will catch 5 good ones.
Right.
Yeah.
And so I went with that mentality in this tournament, and they got better and better for me as the tournament progressed. And I started zeroing in on ones that were a little bit better. And of course, I'll tell you this, when you're catching 22.5 pounds and you got guys like Daryl Gleason and Keith Combs fishing around you in that same area, Dakota, I know he got DQ'd for the first day for a net violation or whatever, but still he was smashing. You have those guys around you.
You knew you were in the right area.
Yeah. You knew that you were on the right program. And from there, I just went through a different array of baits until I got them to bite. And
well, Josh, I want to back up just real quick on when you're finding these brush tops with Lowrance unit, which is what you're running. Are you using your side scan a lot, or your down imaging, or is it a combination of both? What's your main focus when you're using those units?
Oh, so structure scan for sure. To first find them. So once I started figuring out where these crappie fishermen and stuff like to put their piles so that they're not dead obvious, because I couldn't get if it's like a nice big point coming out there, it tapers from 15 to 20, and it's beautiful. It's got trees and rocks on it and a beautiful brush pile. I just couldn't catch anything big. They're just getting hammered.
Yeah.
So once I started figuring out where they were, I used my map big time to find the drains. And that's another thing for a guy from out of town. Rayburn is so backwards to me. I mean, generally the drains, you don't fish those because that's where the catfish and the gar and all that live. Well, on Rayburn, they use those things on a constant level. You know what I mean? They like those drains. So once I started putting two and two together that's where they were, I idled using structure scan. I shot in like the 800 setting is really good for brush. And I only shot at 100 feet on each side, and
I'm fixing to say what's your width on the sides?
Yeah,
it's 100
each side. I brought it in because I wanted to catch those. Like some of those cane piles and stuff are just so tricky. Like I would go, man, I see a shadow.
Yeah.
That's all I could see was a shadow, and I'd turn back around and I'd line it up. I'd miss it, and then all of a sudden I'd get over it on down scan and it'd light up like a giant Christmas tree.
Yeah.
It was beautiful brush pile, and I'd see a couple dots sitting,
right.
on it, and a bunch of crappie up on top of it, and be like, that's good.
Yeah.
And just mark it and keep going.
Right.
But definitely that. Now, I will say, one big, huge thing for me, and I heard Daryl Gleason mention it too, was I do not idle those brush piles in a tournament until I was done fishing it. I just wanted to see.
Now, okay, before you get into that, so so I'm watching live, and of course I fish Rayburn a lot, and I've got a habit of idling those piles, and of course I fish with Daryl a lot, and it's kind of the last year or so kind of got where I don't as well, but you're shutting down a good ways away as far as casts as you can make, and I notice you're throwing a swim bait around a crankbait and a swim bait around the piles before you get up to them. Then when you get up to them, you're throwing your larger baits, your big worms, and that kind of stuff, correct?
Exactly. I'd start with what I would call a locator bait or a Hail Mary cast.
Gotcha.
I would, with Livesay, I have a Livesay on my boat with the Lowrance. That's pretty dang good. I know I know that Panoptics or Live Scope or whatever's been out longer, but that Livesay has helped me take a top 10 in the cup last year. I use it on smallmouth all the time.
Yeah.
So at some point, I need to get within 60 feet to really see that brush pile come alive. And you can just see them. You can see that you can see an environment there.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like there's something going on around it and would kind of persistently, keep me on it. But yeah, what I would do is shut down usually about 150 feet. I'd touch the icon as I was getting ready to sit down. And most of my piles, for the most part, would be 100, no more than 100 yards apart. And then I'd have to run to different sections of the lake, maybe Jackson Hill or, over there or up to the deer stand or up by the bridge or something. But I had multiple piles, and I had 4 areas basically I fished and had multiple piles in those areas. So I just kind of ease up to it, shut down. I did not want to idle it. Those fish are getting smart. They're smallmouth. They're doing different stuff because of electronics. God's got a way of protecting his baby still, no matter how smart we think we're getting. They adapt,
exactly.
And they adapt. And so I did not idle those. And, what I would do is either take a crankbait, but that would get hung. I could catch them on it, but it'd get hung. Or I'd throw a swim bait. And I'd purposely try to get within 100 feet and make a bomb cast where I felt it was going to land over the brush pile. Use my .1 puck to kind of line up where I think it is.
Yeah.
And I'd fish. And then once I hit that target, a lot of times I didn't get that bite. I mean, a lot of times I didn't, but you do just all of a sudden get it.
Well, you caught the 7-pounder on the championship day on the swim bait, right?
Oh, 100%. Yeah.
Now,
100%.
what size swim bait?
It was a 5.8. I went through I went through numerous ones, but my favorite one was like a 5.8 Kitech with a. I don't know. Mega Bass makes it, but it's just a swim jig head. It's a swim jig.
Mm-hmm.
It's like a 3/4 ounce swim jig with a little, like a flashy swimmer thing on the bottom of it.
Yeah.
But then, I'd also use, just whatever big swim. And that's the problem. Tackle. I didn't know. I don't know the lake well enough, so I was just kind of rotating through, and I could not keep tackle together to save my life for this tournament because everybody's just so picked over, and it's so hard to find everything that I was like. Honestly, my first days, I did more damage with a drop shot and a worm And then I ran out of those worms come day 2, and I just never got any bites on it on day 3.
Now-
If you watched live, I didn't put it
Yeah.
down. I kept throwing it a lot.
Now, the drop shot deal.
Yeah.
I mean, I know you said on day 2 you lost some big ones. And day 3, you had one, you're over the top of the pile. I mean, so you would idle up to them after you fished them. It did everything you was going to do. And then before you left the pile, you would drop straight down in the middle of the pile. And Steve, I'm telling you, he got some bites doing it. Now, I don't, maybe got, 50% of them in, Josh? What? So, now you couldn't have been smallmouth line in here, 6-8 pound line, because I watched you on the championship day trying to hoss the big one out, and I mean, you're for a drop shot, you got to be in 10, 15, 10, 12. Oh, he was leaning. Yeah. He was leaning, and he leaned for about 5 minutes.
Oh, really?
The one I broke off.
Yeah.
No doubt. In practice, I think I was using 10 pound, but I was more throwing that out in the drains. Catching a bunch of little ones, spots and stuff. I went to 12 pound Seeger and Vizex, and I use an FG knot, and that thing will never break.
Right.
If you know how to tie it right, it'll never, ever, ever break on you. You're going to have to break the line. And 12 pound was good. I never broke anything off in the tournament outside of that's what hurt was I should have really blown the doors off on it, but you can't bring a knife to a gunfight. But if you're not going to get the bite, you gotta get the bite first. And I'd say I would usually start with the swim bait, crankbait, and then go to the worm. The worm is what I wanted to throw the most because I didn't lose anything on a worm. That's what a worm or a football jig. Those are the two that early in the tournament I could catch them. I was catching them on that, and I was landing them.
Yeah.
But because day 2 scared the crap out of me. Actually, I had a 4 or 5 pounder that I threw to a brush pile. And I would make further casts. I didn't want to be right on top of the brush. That was just okay. Now I'm on it.
Yeah.
And I'm just going to make sure I get the intricate details up inside it. And there's usually ones that I had caught bigger ones off of later. But I usually start with the worm. I'd give that a good, honest 3-4 cast where I felt like I picked it apart good. Then I pick up the drop shot. But the drop shot did catch me a 5 pounder on day 1. But day 2, I lost a 4 or 5 pounder that beats me up still because I touched him twice. That's the thing. When you're in brush, you don't never know if you get that good hook set because you could have a piece of branch in between you and the fish and the hook that just doesn't get them all. And a lot of times they'd find their way out or they'd be on the outside of it. I'd land it right next to the brush or pick it up, pull it through, and then pull it out, and then they'd pick it up. There was. I had that second day, I lost that 4 or 5 pounder, but I also lost 2 in the 8 pound range that'll haunt me forever. And one was on the drop shot, and it was one of the biggest bass most I've ever seen. It was the same exact thing as what you guys saw on day 3. I got up, the same thing happened. Another brush pile about a mile away from there, and it bit his friend, and it went in there, and I pulled back, and he just kept pulling drag out, and I'm like, guys, is a catfish or something? And my line was down in the brush pile and then came back out the other way 10 feet on the other side of the brush pile. One of the biggest large bass I've ever seen in my life came up and just shook his head. I could see my little robo worm right there, and he turned around and went right. I mean, I had him hooked. He was screwed. I had him hooked, but he went right back in that brush pile, and I promise you did not go in the same way he came out. And it was the same situation. I sat there for forever. Trying to get, but earlier in that day, a lot of times if I notice if you get over the brush pile directly over, you can lift up and they'd come out. Day 1, I had a 5.5 on the drop shot, did the same thing. I got over the top of it, and all of a sudden, after 5 minutes, it came out. So if you can know that day 3, I swear to God, with every bone in my body, I thought if I could get that fish out of that brush pile, I was going to win the tournament. But
no, I agree. I was thinking that watching it as well.
Well, Josh, man, Kevin, we got anything else?
Well, we're fixing to get Lee on and talk about. I know Lee, fished shallow in the open the whole time, and you committed deep. We kind of want to get both ends of the perspective from you, Josh. But man, I first congrats. I know it stings a little bit, of course, being second because that first place gets us a chance or goes to the classic. But man, your day's coming. There's no doubt about it, Josh. Man, I appreciate you and for coming on the show and kind of letting us know how you broke it down.
Yeah, guys. Thanks. First of all, a couple things quick. Thanks for having me on. Second, I hope you boys down there in Texas know what that lake means to me. I did before. I mean, growing up a little kid, I've heard of Rayburn my whole life, dreamed of fishing it, and now on my mantle with Mother Trophy sits a Sam Rayburn second place that I know was one of the toughest tournaments in the world to go out there and do well in with all the talent that was in that one. And so that will always mean a bunch to me. I hope to come back there and actually get the job done. I know I'll be back many a times. And if anybody, please follow me, Josh Douglas Fishing, on YouTube, Instagram, Facebook. I try to keep the educational stuff coming all the time. And lastly, dude, say what up to Lee for me, man. He's one of my favorite fishermen right now. He's fun to watch. Good dude.
Will do, Josh.
All right. Thank you, Josh. Appreciate it, man.
Josh
Douglas.
Thank you.
Josh
Appreciate
Douglas,
it.
fresh off his second place finish at Sam Rayburn with the Central Open. And while Kevin's getting Lee Livesay on the phone, we'll get a little report on his perspective of Sam Rayburn. But in the meantime, again, don't forget about the boat shop up in Shreveport, 3J's 408, Cypress Knee Outdoors, and our newest sponsor, Pride Rods. So if any of your rod needs, and if you need anything with hunting and fishing equipment, go to 3J's 4-Way. If you need your boat repaired, if you need electronics work done, go see Raymond Kidd up there at the boat shop. We have on the phone Lee Livesay. Lee had a top 40 finish, finished 36 with 28.9 at Sam Rayburn this past weekend. And Lee, what we want to we just got Josh Douglas' perspective here as to the deep water bite and how that worked for him. Of course, we talked to Albert Collins on the show a couple of weeks ago, and Albert predicted it's going to be guys that can fish both deep and shallow that probably going to take a mixed bag of deep and shallow because of the way the lake was fishing. But you chose to pretty much stay shallow, Lee, and give us your perspective of this event and how it went down for you and why you chose to stay shallow.
Well, my main deal coming in there was, I would say I'm known for a offshore guy, but just not knowing the lake and the timing on the deep stuff is kind of what pushed me shallow. And don't get me wrong, I had a really good offshore practice. I just wasn't ever consistent on getting my numbers up. I mean, I caught 2 fish in the 9-pound range and, some, around 6 pound. And it was stuff that, it was in that zone in the canyons to Jackson Hill area where most of those guys were, but I just never had enough confidence that I could go catch 5 of them a day. And every time I'd go shallow, I'd get a big bite. And when I say big, I'm talking about a 2 3/4 to 4 1/4 is what I'm calling big.
Yeah. Solid way fish. Yeah.
I had a 7-pound bite frog and 2 in practice, but it was just consistent for me up there. I had one little zone, one little section, some drains of hydrilla that went into the pads, and there was a lot of fish in there. I mean, the second day of the tournament, I probably had 40 blow-ups. I just got the Sam Rayburn frog curse. I mean, all of them, but 2 of them missed it. I mean, I'm not even losing them; they're just missing it. But it was just a consistent thing for me. I knew people like Daryl and Albert and Chris Wilson, and the list goes on. Those guys know what piles have what, when to hit them, and what road. I went in a drain and fished it out. Thought I knew what I was doing. I saw combs come in behind me and catch one like first cast in practice. I was like, okay, I just need to go get on the bank.
Yeah.
Because I don't have the exact angles and whatnot. It was not a layup because I was around the right fish up there too, but it was just a consistency deal for me. One of those deals where you put a couple rods on the deck and you go fishing.
Yeah.
Now, Lee, on live, it showed you, of course, shallow and showed you fishing past, but you was fishing some thick cover. Kind of break down for us here, what exactly maybe you were looking for. And when I say thick, I mean, you were throwing that thing up in a hayfield up there.
Yeah, you really needed 80 in there. You needed a full of line. It was really thick pads. Everybody's asking, well, did you throw a smaller frog? Did you flip? You can't.
Yeah.
It's too thick. But there was 2 things going on shallow for me. You had the fish, and I'm not going to say everything, but there was pads in beach and 5 fingers and stuff like that were easy accessible. You could throw across the whole pad field.
Right.
They're super thick, but I would have a lot more fish miss it there, and I think it's because they get a lot more pressure. Now the fish were bigger, but a lot more missed it. And I kind of got in an area where there weren't many people fishing because there was just so much. There was so much area to cover, so many pads, and I just had little isolated areas that had either brim beds behind the pads, like up against the bank. There'd be a little bit of open water. There'd be brim beds in there, and there'd be fish.
Yeah.
Fish in there, and then I had some pads that had little depressions with them with hydrilla mixed in with the pads, and those were my real big fish were. But it was just, big rod, big line, big frog.
Lee, did you ever get on anything in the hydrilla, along with the frog, or even punching?
I punched a lot in practice in hydrilla and other areas, and I caught some good fish, but it wasn't ever consistent. I might catch a 3 or 4 pounder, but then it wasn't ever boom. I'd fight school like you can some certain times, and I caught a lot of little fish doing it. Now, my hydrilla that went into my pads, there were fish in those same drains right outside in front of my pads, and actually catch 3 of my keepers out of that the last day, the last hour, just because I didn't have anything going. So there was definitely a bite that going on too, for sure. I know a lot of guys were catching fish in little drains with isolated hydrilla patches that were just kind of scattered, throwing a worm, throwing a little swim bait, stuff like that.
Lee, has the fall migration, we're just a little bit early for that, aren't we? Is it starting to slowly develop? Are the shads starting to migrate up the creeks at all yet?
You're not quite there on Rayburn yet, in my mind, for sure. It was, the first day of the tournament was one of the hottest days I've ever fished.
Yeah.
It was hot. I was wanting to jump in the lake, but it's kind of crazy. I don't even know what today is. September 2nd or 3rd week of September, right?
September 14th.
Yeah, we're middle of September right now.
We're talking about there's still a ton of brim on beds at Rayburn right now. And I know it goes on all summer with the full moon, but, that's kind of a deal I keyed in on. There was brim in the pads when the sun got up, but, I was bombing some casts in practice, like back behind the pads, in nothing, in inches, and boom, 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 get blown up. And I, pulled in there to see what it was. And sure enough, just rows of honeycomb brim beds full of brim. So, it's pretty crazy that those brim are still on beds at this point in time. All my fish were brim eaters. There was a few little threadfin would come in the outside of the pads, but, just little bitty rats were chasing them. My big fish were eating big brim, and I had a 7-pounder just crushing, jumping out of the water, eating brim in the pads. The second day I could never get to eat. So there's some big ones in there.
Lee, was that your game plan, was to go shallow and tough it out? Or did you have a certain weight in your head maybe that, hey, if I get to this, I'm going to go out and at least try the piles? What was your game plan if it had worked out to perfection for you?
No, that's exactly what I had in my mind, because I honestly, and I was kind of doing what those other guys were, especially like Josh. I was catching my big ones on a swim bait on top of the brush piles.
Yeah.
And some great big ones, but in my head, because they caught them better than I thought they would. Honestly,
they caught them a lot better than a lot of stuff.
3
bags over, 3
Yeah.
bags over 27 pounds. I can honestly say I did not see that coming.
Yeah.
And even those medium weights, I figured.
Right.
But the water was low, and low water helps. Shallow and deep, it concentrates fish. So I think that was a lot to do with it. But in my head, if I caught 14 to 18 pounds is what I thought I could do pretty not easy, but in a day in the pads, whether I catch it by 9 o'clock, 1 o'clock, and then so my deal in my head, and I did it the first day. I caught, whatever I caught, 16 and a half pounds, and I went out deep and threw the swim bait, but I never got bit on the way back.
Mm-hmm.
Gotcha.
But that was my deal. If I got around 16, I was going to jump out there, and that second day, I just never got there to leave.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, Lee, we got, one thing we want to get from you while we've got you before we let you go is a Lake Fork report. And Bob Seeley's coming up over there this coming weekend. A lot of people getting ready for that. A lot of our people that are watching this episode are Sea League guys. So give us a little breakdown. What's going on at Fork and what do they need to do to maybe be able to compete over there?
Fork is actually fishing really good right now for the time of the year, and I'm really surprised looking back on the last 4 or 5 years at this point in time. But it's almost a little behind, but it's not because of the weather. I almost think it's because of the pressure that the lake got earlier in the summer.
Mm-hmm.
Everybody not being at work and being off with the virus and stuff. I think the fish they never got comfortable out there earlier in the summer, and they kind of just got busted up real bad. And they, not as many people are fishing this late in the summer, so I think those fish are, just now really getting settled down out there. A lot of guys are catching them really good offshore still,
Mm-hmm.
and not all suspended. Now, I mean, there are a bunch suspended still, but there's a lot of, just for the tournament anglers, in my mind, that's what I tell all my, and I hate saying this because it's bad for me, but I hate when customers or people, give me some spots for the Sealeys. I'm huge in the Sealeys on just go fishing.
Yeah.
Just go fishing.
Right.
Not spot deal. Is all that offshore great stuff just gets hammered and beat down and ends up becoming the worst stuff. And just go fishing.
Yeah, you're fishing for one. You're not fishing for five.
And there's not many secret spots on Lake Fork. It's not a huge body of water like Rayburn or Toledo Bend. So a lot of those fish get hammered year round with all the guides that are over there and the guide services they have.
Right.
Everybody does a great job, but those fish are pressured.
You're fishing for fish under 16 inches and fish over 24 inches, one of the two.
Yep, I agree.
Now,
I'm a big believer in those little ones like to live shallower, and I'm a big believer in the real giant like to live a little bit shallower too. They don't like that, 18 to 22 foot range like we usually fish on our slot fish.
right.
So
Right.
there's a really good green hydrilla growing in certain areas of the lake. And if I was coming, I would just keep it super simple. Texas rig worm, little swim bait, top water, wacky worm, stuff like that. Fish that green hydrilla, fish wood point you see, and just keep it simple and just fit. All my buddies that just go and fish that don't have a clue, those are the guys that end up winning the money. But they're just, fishing any hard object you see with wood in a foot of water or 8 foot of water, or fishing a hydrilla drain or line or whatever it is, and just keeping it simple, not trying to be, Kevin Van Dam out there cranking this spot at 1 o'clock,
Yeah.
Right.
Most of those really good deep spots, you're just catching slot fish on them. They're not going to help you either way. So I'd rather be up there plucking 150s, and then catch a 250, and then you might throw up there with a foot of water, catch a 10-pounder this time of year. So just keep it simple, guys, and fish whatever you're comfortable with. Stay south, north or south on the lake, and you're going to catch a lot of fish. They're biting pretty good right now, to be honest.
Yeah.
Being that they're biting pretty good right now, Lee, what's your prediction for the weekend? How many overs get caught?
Ooh, this is a 3-day tournament.
This one is a 3-day, Friday,
3
Saturday,
days.
Sunday.
Yeah.
I mean, are you looking at a couple overs a day? Are the big ones biting that good?
They're biting pretty good. I'm gonna say the first day, I bet 7 overs get caught.
Wow. Holy cow.
Like they're biting pretty good. And after that, so I'm gonna say a dozen overs through the 3 days.
Golly, that's been a while since the fall. The fall Sealeys on there has had that many overs caught. That's impressive.
Well, I do know this too, Lee. I was at Texoma this past weekend, and the water temperature dropped from 87 degrees to 78 degrees in 2 days.
Today is the first day it got cool. It's cool at my house in Longview, Texas right now. Like it feels good outside.
And it's supposed to be cool this weekend.
Yeah. So how much will that play a role, this water temperature dropping?
That's not going to be a big player. I mean, it feels good to us, but those fish aren't feeling it as much. The deal is the lake's just fishing pretty good right now compared to the past couple of Septembers.
Right.
I mean, I've been, not just me, and I'm on no information because I have an elite event there this fall. But I mean, I'm watching social media guys that I'm friends with. I mean, they're catching them good, big offshore. shallow. I mean, people are catching them. Usually this time of year is a struggle. Kevin's been out there with me before, and I mean, it's a struggle sometimes just to get big. But right now they're biting pretty good.
Yeah.
Good deal.
All right.
Well, Lee, I appreciate you coming on, man. Congrats on the finish at Rayburn. I know that sets you really well in the points, and I got you another check. So anytime you can go get a check anywhere, that works. I know that. But and I appreciate the help on the Sealy. I know we got a bunch of listeners going to fish that event this weekend. So I appreciate your insight there and just coming on and being on with us.
All right, guys. I thank you.
All right. Lee Livesay. And Lee's one of the tour fishing pros that continues to make his mark, Kevin. Especially everybody from this region knows who he is, but he's starting to make his name even on a national level. He's had a lot of success, and I've heard some of the commentators on the let's see, he's with the elites, right?
Yeah, he's
with the elites. I've heard Zona and them talk about this is one of the up and coming guys.
Steve, there's no doubt. Look, I've been in the boat with Lee 2 or 3 times,
right?
Both on Fork. I mean, all times on Fork actually. And I told you this with Nick LeBrun. There's people and Jacob Porosnik's the same way. There's people when you get in the boat, you know instantly they've got it.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Yeah.
And Lee is one of those.
Yeah.
He's got it.
Yeah.
He can get on a body of water, never been there before. Look at the water, look at the clarity, look at it and say, I'm gonna go catch him doing this.
Right.
And he goes and catches them doing that.
Right.
I mean, he is that good
at
figuring out water and how to catch them and going and doing it. He is no doubt going to be one of the best on the Elite Series in the next few years.
We're looking forward to watching him. So, real quick, we had the ABA Bass Pro Shop Open Series. I guess I don't know if you got, it wasn't a regional, it was a divisional. It was 2 divisions combined into one for a championship. It's a 2-day event at Lake Texoma. Scott Burkett from Bochito, I guess that's Bochito, Oklahoma. He had 10 fish for 2 days. He had 30.14, kind of blew it away. He also had a big fish of 411. So he had day 1, he had 1261, which was probably in second or third. I think it was in second going into the final day. He was in, he had 1753 on the final day. So he had a really good day too. Scott Dean from Terrell, Texas. A lot of guys, we know Scott. We all fish against him. Scott's another guy. He finished second with 2178. Billy Klein from Argyle, Texas was third with 1963. He had 7 fish combined for both days. A lot of guys struggled to catch limits. Catching limits 2 days, and only 2 guys did that, and that was Scott Burke and Scott Dean were the only 2 guys to catch limits both days. And so Trent Menes from North Lake, Texas, he finished 4th with 1950. George Siminoff from Jacksonville, Arkansas, finished 5th with 1799. Brandon Pedego from Lawton, Oklahoma, had 1550 for 6. I'm just looking down the list here. Anyway, as you go down the weights, really, I think day 1, let me look here, 1378 was leading on day 1, Kevin. It's
tough on Texoma.
It was tough on Texoma. Again, the lake was on the rise. They had a lot of rain there. The day I got there, it was still raining when I got there. And talking to some guys, and I looked at the lake reports and the lake level, and it kept coming up every day. I think the fish scattered on us is what I think happened. Some fish were shallow. They were catching them pretty good. If you want windy, rocky points, that seemed to be where the better fish were in this event.
Right.
And but congratulations to those guys. After this event, let's see, co-anglers. Look at the co. Mike Casanova from Frisco, Texas, won the co-angler side with 1706. And so a couple of guys I fished with did really well. My day 2 partner finished 3rd, Michael Nance. He had 1171 for 2 days. And then John Walker, my day 1 partner, finished 9th. And so both those guys did really well. And but anyway, it was a tough event to fish. It was one of those events that you look back on and say, I don't care to go do that again. So
I've had a lot of those events.
Yeah, but the top 10, they did announce, and we'll announce that probably next week. The top 10 guys from each division qualify for the Ray Scott Championship, which is on Chickamauga next April. And yes, I was fortunate enough to be one of those guys.
I was fixing to say congratulations.
Yeah, I finished 7th or 8th overall, and so it looks like I made Chickamauga, so I'm looking forward to that. And but we'll give the list next week of the top 10. They hadn't posted it yet, but we'll give the list for that next week and let you know who made it. And again, you and I are getting ready for the BFL Super Tournament on Sam Rayburn. So
not this weekend, but next. That's going to be an interesting event with these. Everybody with what happened in the Open. I think everybody's going to be running the brush piles. But with this weather cooling off and the brush piles getting the pressure they've gotten over the last couple of weeks, I would not be surprised if that shallow water bite really picked up. Going over there. So it's. Rayburn is going to get a lot of pressure over the next 2 months.
Yes, it is.
I mean, talking, they
got another Sealy coming up.
The Sealy, the first weekend, I believe. Let me see here. Sam Rayburn is 9th and 10th, October 9th and 10th.
Right.
That next weekend is a Toyota Series event there.
Oh, okay.
An FLW Toyota. The following week after the Sealy's. Is.
Well, the next 2 weeks it's getting hammered. This week.
Okay, so you got the BFL September 26th, 27th.
And we'll probably have 140 in that.
I hope.
Yeah.
Then you have the Outlaw Outdoors Team Championship.
Oh, yeah.
They've got at least 100, October 3rd and 4th.
Yeah.
Then the very next weekend you have the Sealy's, and then the very next weekend you have the Toyota Series.
Wow.
So it's going to get some pressure over there, but Rayburn can handle it. It always has pressure.
Yeah, it amazes me.
But now I'll tell you this. If you are going to Rayburn and you don't have a Gleason Candy football jig and some Gleason Candy J-Bugs in your boat, it's your own fault. Daryl Gleason proved that this past weekend in Opens. It shows he had an 8 and a 9. He had 3 fish over 8 pounds in 2 days, the first 2 days, all on that football jig.
And I can tell you from experience, the Gleason Candy Baby Swamp Hog has been a player for me at Rayburn for the last year and a half.
So not only was Daryl throwing it and had 27-1 on day 2 alone and got 5th overall in a tournament, I know Shane Campbell, the owner of Tackle Addict, was throwing it as well, and he finished 6th in the tournament.
Oh, well, there you go.
And it's a great video. Daryl Bassmaster has it up on their page. V&M shared it on their social media page. If you have not seen that yet, you need to go check out that video. It's an awesome video of Daryl catching his big 8.5 pounder. He got it on his camera in his boat, his GoPro. So some great footage by Daryl. Also, shout out to Leon Jefferson, who is the marketing director for Pride Rods.
Right.
He finished top 10 in the co-angler division, and I know day 2, which got him into the championship day, he was throwing a football jig. I don't know what color it was, but I know he was throwing the V&M football jig as well. But he does a great job for Pride Rods. Shout out to Leon, and congratulations on your finish as well.
Also, Toyota Series FLW's opened up. They've announced the date for the Southwestern Division for this next year in 2021. January 28th and 30th, they'll be at Sam Rayburn. March 25th to 27th at Texoma. Good luck with that one. And then April 28th to 30th, they're back on Rayburn. So 2 of the 3, Kevin, are going to be at Sam Rayburn.
Yeah,
I'm surprised it's out.
I am too, and I know Rayburn's your bigger, better draw. I was sure hoping one was going to come to Toledo like this year, do a Rayburn and Toledo together.
Right.
The Texoma one kind of throws me off. Out of all the Great Lakes, Texoma's a good lake, but
this last tournament's not indicative of the weights.
It's not.
I talked to some of the locals. If you wasn't coming in the spring with 23, 25 plus, you wasn't winning the tournament.
Yeah.
The lake
and they have it in March. I give them that. It is in March.
So it should be a good month. March should be Texoma could be a really good event. Depending on water level there too. Water level tends to really fluctuate on Texoma in the spring. Also, as we already alluded to, Sealy's coming up this coming weekend, 18th, 19th, and 20th. Check it out. Go to SealyOutdoors.com to register for that. Cowboy Division BFL, Kevin and I will be there 26th, 27th, a week from this week, coming week, 2 weeks. The Outdoor Outlaws Team Championship coming up October 3rd and 4th, and then the Toyota Series, as we also said, October 15th. So I think it's going to wrap us up, Kevin.
It's going to wrap us up. Make sure to go check out our sponsors. You can check them out on their Facebook page. The Boat Shop out of Shreveport, Louisiana. Full Garmin support dealer. Yamaha show registration dealer as well. The boat shop, 3J's Four-Way, south of Natchitoches. So if you're coming from South Louisiana, coming up to the Natchitoches exit, going to Toledo Bend, stop off here at the Cypress Floor exit. 3J's has all your tackle, some great food. You can stop in and get on your way to the lake. And last but not least, Pride Rods, great rod company out of South Texas. Should be in most of your local tackle stores. Give them a try, and you give them a shot when you go in tackle store. Check them out.
And also, we want to thank you for tuning us in. Watch us today. We reached 80 plus, which is outstanding numbers for as young.
And that's live. And that's live, Steve.
Yeah, that is live.
You know, I appreciate. Thanks to everybody for the growth of Tackle Talk Live. We're between 3,000 and 4,000 views on our shows weekly, and it is growing. And I don't know if we ever kind of expected that to do this quickly.
Not this quickly.
And
I've been very surprised.
that kind of views on this show that we just do for YouTube and Facebook, we appreciate it, and hopefully keep growing.
And if you're a potential sponsor out there, been watching this program, again, that's the kind of numbers we're putting up right now. We'd love to have you. Contact me or Kevin, either one, through messaging on Facebook, and we'd love to entertain you with. We'll send you a package as to what we can do for you and how we do it. And we're very inexpensive. We got great marketing ability. I think we can help you out. So please give us an opportunity, but message us on Facebook. I think it's going to wrap us up. Again, thank you for watching. If you want to continue to be a better angler, you got to watch Tackle Talk Live.